Hello and welcome to episode 50 of the Footy with Fletch podcast. In this episode, I'm joined by Harry Lemmey. He was drafted to Carlton as a key forward with pick 47 in the 2022 AFL Draft. Hello, Harry. How are you?
Good, thanks, Fletch. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
What sports did you play growing up?
Fletch, I played a bit of obviously footy's the main one, but I played a lot of cricket, basketball, tennis. I was sort of that kid growing up that did a bit of everything. So I think it's the perfect time when you're growing up to try different things and figure out what you like. But towards the back end, it was more just the footy and cricket for me.
How did you first get involved with footy?
Oh, geez. I reckon it just started off with dad, watching it on TV and, always having a footy in the house. And that turned into kicking the ball outside in the backyard. And that's probably how it all started. And my love for the game probably came through dad and him showing me the way of, how good footy is.
And you played in the Sandful. What was the process of getting involved with the Sandful?
For me, it sort of started from about what would have been 12 or 13, where you play at your junior club, and then you sort of figure out what zone you're in, and then from there, I was sort of living in a spot where the zones were all very close, so we we're all messaging and emailing different clubs, trying to figure out which zone I was in, and fortunate enough, I was in West Adelaide, and I think the first one is under 13s, but I was lucky enough to do that as a 12-year-old. So that's where I guess it sort of all started from there.
And you played in all three levels at West Adelaide. You played in the forward line, but you also played in the ruck and in defence. How did you find your time at the club and in the Samful?
I loved it, Fletch. It was, the three different levels of different experiences. And as you said, playing forward, back in defence, it was a great experience for me to get to where I am today. And it's probably how I'm here, I reckon, because of that exposure I've had at each sort of end. And that was something that the club was really good at. Helped me develop my game in all facets of the game. But it was probably Paul Streetfield, who was the under 18s coach, is now head of footy. That really took me in, and with cricket going on at the same sort of time as well, and playing over obviously the summer, it was hard for that pre-season sort of thing to start. But I eventually chose the right decision and stay with footy, I reckon. But yeah, it was a really good club culture at Westies as well. Like, we had so many boys that have gone through the ranks there as well. And, one of my good friends, Harry Barnett's at West Coast as well. So we sort of went through all the way together. Tom Scully's at Port was the same age as me. So, we had some tall timber in under 18s and in that same sort of age group. So, yeah, it was good fun.
And you were selected by the Blues with pick 47 in the 2022 draft. What was it like to, I guess, be selected to one of the big four clubs in the
Yeah.
AFL?
Oh, it was surreal, Fletcher. So I spoke with the Blues probably, I want to say, two, three, four times throughout the year. Um, and I guess when you obviously you always just dream of it happening, and then when it happens, it was just like, so it just hits you in the face like, wow, I'm a Blue now. So just I guess a mixed bag of emotions. It probably just all hits you moving out of home and relocating to Melbourne here, and I think it was one of the best things that happened for me. I probably didn't realise how big it was going to be in as the big four clubs come from Adelaide, and how crazy and passionate the fans are, and probably didn't take all that in until I actually got here. So, but no, it's been really good.
Who were some of the other clubs that interviewed you in the lead up to the AFL draft?
I probably spoke with about, must have been 13 or 14 in the end. So almost all of them, pretty much all the clubs, and there was different interests, and I spoke with Carlton late and would have been probably Collingwood, Fremantle, and I reckon it was Port real late, um, just before going into the draft. So, yeah, very fortunate where I ended up.
And you obviously had to relocate from South Australia to Melbourne. What was that move like, and how did the club support you with that?
I mean, it's very different to Adelaide, Melbourne. Obviously, there's a lot going on, and there's always things to do. And it's a bit more fast-paced life here. But no, I've loved the move. I think being in a similar position, so I moved in with Ollie Hollands last year. Um, that was really good fun, and I'm really good mates with Ollie now still, and yeah, we get along really well. And I guess being in the same sort of position, moving out of home, and we sort of just figured it out together. Few average meals on the first couple of weeks. But no, it was good fun. And so I actually moved in with Lewis Young for the first couple of weeks, and obviously an Adelaide boy himself. He's sort of showed me the way, and lent on his experiences of how he transitioned into moving out of home and coming from a different city as well. So they both really helped me in that transition.
And obviously, you've played in the forward line as a key forward and as a key defender, also dabbling in the ruck at VFL level.
Yeah.
What sort of position do you see yourself playing moving forward?
Oh, Fletch, I think it could honestly be all three at this stage. I mean, I'd love to be the next Harry Mackay and Charlie Curnow, but they're fairly high caliber players, and it's going to be pretty hard to get in front of them at this stage. But I take in everything that I can from them, and they've helped me like drastically in my development, I guess, as a key forward. And I continue to work with Harry and Charlie and Tom Conning and even Weeders. Just playing on him at training is probably the best thing for me. Just to experience what it's like to be at playing on a high class AFL key defender, and I've no doubt when I get my opportunity, I'll be ready because I've been playing on Weeders, and when I'm going the other end and I'm playing as a defender, I'm playing on Harry and Charlie. So um, it's probably the two hardest roles to play when it comes to match simulation at training. When you look at the whole AFL, when it comes to the best key forward and arguably the best key back. So that's why I think I'll be ready when, hopefully I get my opportunity soon.
But what is it like to be around the club with guys like Harry Mackay, Charlie Curnow, and Jacob Wiedering, Cripper, and Walshy as well?
Yeah, I reckon Fletch, everyone would sort of say the same thing where when you first get there, you're almost a bit starstruck, but after a couple of weeks and a couple of months, you sort of get used to it, and they become your mates, and um, I guess you become used to it, so it's not as much, you're not as much starstruck anymore, sort of thing.
And are there any sort of messages that the coaches have given you this season about some areas of your game that you might need to, I guess, in the back half of the season work on?
Well, I think, well, it's a hard one, Fletch, because I think they've always just given me full confidence to go and play my game, and I think the biggest one was to just continually to get better each week, and I think that's how you got to look at training. Like it's a very hard AFL side to get into, so I think the most important thing for me that I've identified this year is to be able to go in and train, and I've got to train as if this is my week to get into the AFL side. So probably the importance of training and getting that done, and you know any chance that I get to play on leaders, it might only be every second week, let's say, but when the opportunity comes, I'm going to make the most of it and continue to learn from those experiences. Which I mean, it comes down to as well. You ask about what sort of things, like Weeders is. Can't remember the stat what it was, but he's like one of the best 1v1 in an aerial battle or something like that. I'm not sure what it was, but um, that's something that I've got to pride myself on, and there's no better man to go up against it, is there? So when those opportunities come, I'm bringing that ball to ground, or I'm trying to mark it, not letting him intercept it. So yeah, there's some of the little things.
And obviously, Luke Power is the head of development and VFL senior coach. What have been some of the main things that you've learnt from Luke over the last couple of years?
Luke's been really good for me. Always just trusting in my ability to go and approach the game as I do. And I think the biggest one is just to enjoy it. Obviously, he knows what it's like to move out of home and transition into a different city. And, it can be hard those first couple of months moving out and, re-establishing your life somewhere else. But no, he's been really good for me, just enjoying the process. You're here for the long run. So, you just got to make the most of your opportunities. And when those opportunities do come, you can crack it with full force. And Luke has been really good for me.
And it seems like the club have a great culture. What is the culture at the Blues like at the moment?
I think you would have heard it everywhere, Fletch. I think we're valuing contest and pressure, and it's as simple as it sounds. Like we're just going after that. And throughout the year, we've Bossie's talked about earning the right to inspire the others and the fans. And when you put on the jumper, it's not just about you; it's about everyone else. It's about your family. You're playing for a lot of people, and the goal this year as well was to become a consistent home and away side. You look at your Collingwoods, your Brisbanes, who consistently for 4 or 5 years have been a consistent home and away side, and so that's sort of the goal for us. We're only just on the start of our journey, but from where we were last year to this year, it's looking pretty good within the four balls. So we're just consistently going after that, and taking it week by week. Bossie's very big on not looking too far ahead, and focusing on little patches at a time. And we've a little what you'd call like 2 3 block now, and just focusing on that rather than the big outcome.
And last year at VFL level, you played 17 games, kicking 12 goals rather. What was it like to play at VFL level last year for the club?
Yeah, it was very interesting, Fletch. It was because obviously having a bit of Sandford League experience as well. Like I found them very interesting. How I thought the Sandford was more of a physical and a lot more mature bodies out there, whereas the VFL it's definitely more skillful and you got more talented players playing the league. Um, but it was a good transition for me. I felt like I could use my strengths to the best of my ability in this league, and um, no, it was good getting my first full year of senior footy as well. Obviously, my 18s year had a bit of ups and downs with league and reserves and 18s and state footy as well. So it was good to just put all that aside and get a full year without any interruptions, I guess. And obviously coming so close last year from VFL finals and just missing out. So the boys are hungry this year, and it's been a very interesting year for us in the VFL. Like obviously last week we only just lost to Southport, who are they're second, third, fourth at the moment on the ladder, and the week before that with Essendon up by 40 points at the half, and we're just struggling at the moment to maintain that momentum that we're getting and finish out games. But yeah, we've got a really young side, so we're just hoping that we can continue that momentum and close out the games.
And you've played 10 VFL matches this year, averaging 9.7 disposals, 4.2 marks, and also 1.7 hitouts. You've also kicked 6 goals and 8 behinds. What have you made of your season in the VFL in 2024?
Again, Flash. It was interesting because all pre-season I played as a key forward and wasn't really expecting to go back. I knew through conversations with Vossi and Luke Parra as well, we knew that it would be good for my development to go back as a key defender for a little bit. We just weren't sure on when that was going to happen. But it was decided that after round, I reckon it might have been one. Yeah, I think it was the first round I played as a key back, and went from there. And I guess I took so much from playing as a key defender and using what I've learned to put back into as a key forward. And ultimately, I think it's just made me a better player. And I reckon the biggest thing is actually, like I said before, playing on Harry and Charlie during match sims, because you see how they run, what are their patterns like, what are they doing with their feet, which is probably the biggest thing that I took out of it, because they are very hard to defend, and there's no question why they are one of the best two key forwards in the comp at the moment.
And you're 200 centimeters tall. How would you sort of, I guess, describe the way that you play your footy?
Uh, I would say with my strengths, I've got to use my versatility, and I'm a lead up, key forward. And I think that's been the biggest thing this year. I had a good chat with Vossi about not just being focused on one aspect of the game. There's so many aspects as a key forward that you need to apply into it. So whether it's with the aerial battles, you got to win half them, and I guess this year I was so coming back as a key forward, I was so fixated on the number of, how many did you win, how many did you bring to ground, and how many did you lose. And Vossi was really good about, telling me you can't just be so fixated on that one thing. There's so many aspects of the key forward that you need to get right as well. And he said, have a look back at pre-season when it was working really well, and that's what I've done. And over the last 2 3 weeks, it's sort of showing out and training and in games as well. Just getting more opportunities and getting others involved, and that's been a real highlight. And from the feedback, the coaches have been really happy with that transition back over the last 4 weeks. It is.
What is it like to have Michael Voss as the AFL senior coach and to work so closely with someone like Vossi?
Um, he's a big, powerful man, isn't he? He's got a what's it called? And they call it now aura when he walks into a room, and his presence is felt. It's so much knowledge from Vossi as well. Like obviously the player that he was, and now to be the coach that he is. He was obviously at Port and Brisbane as a coach. He's taken so much back, and I mean the man's got a lot of knowledge. So I guess it's more just tipping into that, and he's got a lot to give. So if you give him your attention, he'll give a lot back. So, he's a very good man, Vossi.
Couple of quick fire questions. Who do you think's the nicest teammate at the Blues and why?
Nicest teammate. There's too many, Fletch. There's too many. The nicest. Um, ooh. I'll say Harry Mackay. He's been, really good for me in my development, and H is always looking out for me. And if he thinks that there's something that I can do a little bit better, he'll have no hesitation to come up to me and pull me aside and say, "Hey, I think you could do this a little bit better." And sitting in his reviews in the AFL, I've been very close with Jordan Russell as well, who's just come in this year and has been really good for me. Funnily enough, we actually grew up in the same area, obviously different years apart. But there's been a good little connection there. But no, H has been really good for me in my development coming into the AFL system.
And just finally, do you have any pre-game superstitions or rituals that you'd undertake before a game?
Um, I think one that's been, routines are always changing, and every player is looking for new ways to get better all the time. But I think one for me would be going into the club early and getting in the ice baths, and sort of waking your body up before you're going out to play. I think that's probably one that I've started this year.
Well, thank you so much, Harry, for your time and all the best of luck for the rest of the year in the VFL. And hopefully, we'll see you make your AFL debut in the not too distant future. Thanks again.
Thank you, Fletch. Thanks for having me.